Hey, it's Meg. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's junk journal with me, we're going to be doing day 26 of the junk journal July prompts. Today's prompt is shade, and what I decided to do was go for shades of one colour, and as you might be able to guess, I picked pink because it's something that I really like at the minute and I've also been using throughout this journal, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to just go all in on all the different pinks. So I tried to pick out some different like shades or tones of pink that I could find in my stash. So whether that's like this napkin here with some flowers on them, or I also pulled out a few like acrylic paints, some scrapbook papers, all sorts of different things that just had the pink tones to them. And then I thought, well, let's see how I can just throw these together and make a background with them. I also had some of the DIY washi strips that I made in a previous video, and I thought I could add one of those in too because they were pink. So my approach to this page at first was to literally just like add anything pink to the page. I even had on the original layout the little like oval with the like scalloped edges. That was actually something that a needle was put on. I can't remember where it even came from, but when I got it for, I think it was like in a kit or something, like a sewing kit. And when I saw it, I was like, well, I'm immediately going to save that because I'm going to use that eventually for something. So I didn't cover the whole thing up because I really liked the pink on that page. And I also felt that it was quite fitting considering that this was the page I was working on and it had that pink. So it was almost like a bit of a sign anyway that we were going to use pink on this page. And so, like I said, I just started putting different things together on the page to create the background. The base that I already had did already have quite a lot of interest on it anyway, with the painted paper there with the white sort of marks on them, and also the tea dyed paper from the previous prompt. So I already had a lot to work with, so I didn't feel like I needed to add too much. So I only added a few collage elements to this one because I didn't want it to be too busy. I was trying to keep this quite simple, and then I decided to start working in the paints, and what I decided to do was add them in a few different areas and just sort of build them up. So I had this, it's almost more of a purpley colour really. It's a paper artsy paint in taro milk tea that, yeah, the more I look at it, it's more of a purpley pink, but I'm still classing it as a pink. But then I did also use a Daler Rowney paint in a second, and that is in pink blush, but it's more of a peach, I would say, like a peach pink, especially layered on top of the purpley pink. I think that's what I love so much sometimes about, well, I guess it's just colour theory, isn't it? Because when I put the pink blush next to the other colour, it looked like even more peachy than it does when I use it in other places. So I really enjoyed having that contrast and seeing all the different shades of pink building up, and how I could add different like texture or dimension by adding that in different areas. So there were some places where I just put like a wash of the purpley shade and then did like mark making on top of that to have quite subtle contrast and detail on the page, but still an area of interest. So it was quite fun really, because I was almost like collaging but with the paints, like in the way that I was layering them up. So that was a really fun exercise, especially to be able to think, right, I don't want to like take this too far and have the paint all across the page. So trying to like, be a bit restrained with how I was adding the paint to the page. I think that was a really good way for me to practice including paints in a way that feels like they don't take over the page, because sometimes I feel like I add paint to the page and it becomes way too like overpowering on the page, and just like, I don't know how to describe it, almost like too painty. And I'm like, oh, I actually wanted it to be like collage but with a hint of paint. And so yeah, it's a bit of a balance that I think I'm still working on. Sometimes it goes a little too far. But what I decided to do actually, once I'd put my base down, you'll see in a second, I actually pulled out one of my, I guess it's called a sketchbook, but it's got a lot of like painting and abstract painting in particular, and experimenting with mark making. And it's from, I want to say like 2020, definitely something I was doing during the pandemic, and I wanted to pull it out and just use it as a bit of inspiration for myself. So in the same way that I turn to my previous like journals to come up with different ideas or things I want to do, I do have a few like sketchbooks or just like ones that I just like have a bit of a play in. This is definitely one of my favorites that I have worked in. I managed to fill the entire thing. I distinctly remember there was a week where I was just like constantly working in it, and I've got like all different like backgrounds that I've done. And yeah, like I said, it's more abstract, like nothing is I don't know, I don't want to say like not a great work of art, but you know what I mean, it's all just like scribbles and practicing, which is all good stuff, like putting together different colors and seeing how different materials layered. And so yeah, I think I definitely want to get back into doing that a lot more, and just having a place to be able to experiment and, I don't know, just explore different things. So maybe that's something I could do with having like some collage elements on it too. So maybe collaging onto the page and then just experimenting with different ways that I can add the paints to it, just in a way that feels a little bit more detached from the actual journal pages. Because sometimes, even though I always say, you know, you can turn over and there's like a brand new page to work on, it can feel a little bit more intimidating, I think, and daunting when I'm working in an actual journal. So whether I decide to do that maybe on some separate sheets or just in a sketchbook by itself, I think the one that I have here, I want to say it's a moleskin art, but it's like a smaller version. It's like way more compact than other ones that I've got, and I've never seemed to find the size again. I don't know how to describe it. It's like the perfect like fit in my hand when I'm holding it. It's like slightly smaller than A5, I want to say. But yeah, the whole thing's full, and that's very rare for me to actually like fill up an entirety of something. And so yeah, it's definitely inspiring me and making me want to pull out my materials and actually experiment and play a bit more with the things that I work on. And I think it's just because I've been spending this month working in this journal, trying out new ideas. Like, that's something I always love about the challenges and having the different prompts, is it really encourages you, I think, to work on new techniques or different ideas, things you haven't necessarily done before, or maybe you think, oh, that's reminded me actually of a particular way of doing something, or just the way that you can explore with these prompts. And even if you know, start in one place and it takes you somewhere completely different, it's maybe something that you wouldn't have done without the prompts. So I do enjoy them for that. And so I think I definitely want to try and, I don't know, maybe just have a see how I can work in a sketchbook, because I kind of want to just see what I can create and how I can merge the sort of artsy feel that I want. I know I always talk about this, like the painterly look, but not having it too painty, and having that balance. So, but yeah, it's an art practice, isn't it? I guess that's why they call it that, because it, you know, you're constantly evolving and learning and trying out new things. And so, yeah, I'm just feeling at the moment like I've definitely feel like I've reached a point where there's certain things that I will always do in my pieces that definitely feels like me, which is a really nice place to be in, because I haven't really felt like that before, until probably the pieces I've been working on in like the past year, where there's certain ones I can definitely see a sort of, I don't want to say a style, maybe a style, I don't know. It just feels like there's a little bit more cohesion sometimes, based on when I look back at previous journals, and I can see glimpses of that, but it definitely, there's a feeling of things coming together, I think, a little bit, and part of that is leaning into the things that bring me joy and that I like. So, being able to just sit down here and dedicate a whole spread to the colour pink and using all those different shades and not being afraid to bring in different ideas and textures and things like that, like adding this bold lettering here. So these are just some white alphabet stickers, and I originally wanted to do the quote in all black, and then the reason that I did it in white for Bloom was because I only had B, L, and M. I didn't have any black O's left, and so I thought, well, okay, I guess I'm going to have to do it in the white letters, and I actually really prefer it. It really pops off the page and is such a lovely contrast, I think, against that craft paper. So that's my finished page for the prompt of shade. I hope you enjoyed journaling along with me and having this little chat about my creative process.